Hi, friends, and welcome to the January 27th, 2021 edition of the Wednesday Word. This past Sunday morning in worship, as part of our Converted Worship series, we asked whether we have experienced a change of heart because of our faith in Jesus Christ. And we began the conversation by hearing from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 through 48, in which we heard Jesus say these words, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Now, we have remembered throughout this Converted series that our inability to be changed, maybe our unwillingness to be changed, gets in the way of our mission. If we are to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world, it's difficult for us to make disciples if the church looks too much like the world. We have no alternative to offer. And it's hypocritical of us to ask people to make change or to experience transformation if we have not experienced it ourselves. Now, putting aside that very practical and pragmatic consideration, today I'd like for us to realize and maybe to consider together that our inability to love our enemies not only gets in the way of our mission, but it gets in the way of our relationship with God. Jesus says every time he's asked to identify the greatest commandment, that the first is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. But he always adds, a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. So from the very beginning, Jesus makes it clear that our expression of love for God is somehow intertwined with our ability to love people. But our escape clause is that he says, love your neighbor, right? And there is a progression throughout the Old Testament and into this gospel story. In the Old Testament law, God gives Moses that commandment to give to the people that they are to love their neighbors, their kin, as they love themselves. And then he extends that on to the strangers. Love the stranger among you as you love yourself. And now Jesus ups the ante even more when he says, love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you. And if we're not able to love our neighbors or to love the strangers or to love the enemies, we're probably not fully able to love God. And we're tempted to say that the two are not connected, that we can fully love God even if we don't fully love everyone around us. But in the rest of the Sermon on the Mount passage that we shared together on Sunday morning, Jesus talks about how magnanimous the love of God is, that God makes the rain to fall upon the fields of both the just and the unjust, that God gives equal blessing to the righteous and the unrighteous. And we're led to believe that it's because God has created all and God has love for all. And so as an illustration this morning, I'm here with my wife Suzanne's bridal portrait that I keep in every office that I'm able to have. And added to it this morning, I have a picture collage that I've put together of our children. 5 Jonas kids, each special to me in a particular way, and all of them dear to my heart, my pride and joy, as you might suspect. So imagine walking into my office and saying to me one day, "Jonathan, I love you, but I cannot stand your wife." Or imagine seeing this picture of my children on my desk and saying to me, "Hi, Jonathan, I love you, but there are a couple of your kids that I absolutely despise." Like most fathers and most parents, I would probably be tempted to tell you what you could do with your love for me if you expressed that kind of hatred or that kind of condescension toward my children or toward my wife. I would say that loving them, or at least respecting them, or at least having an appreciation of some kind for them is an integral part of expressing love for me. And maybe that's the challenge that we need to embrace and accept as we're trying to love our enemies in the week ahead. How can we say, "I love you, God, but I despise some of the children that you've created in your image and called good"? "I love you, God, but I hate some of those people for whom you sent Jesus Christ to live and to die and to rise again. John, maybe John the Apostle, but John, the writer of those letters of John in the New Testament, says that it's impossible for us to love God fully if we cannot love the people around us. In 1 John chapter 4, that famous chapter in which he tells us that God is love, John writes this in verses 19 through 21. We love because he first loved us. Those who say, I love God, and hate their brothers or sisters are liars. For those who do not love a brother or a sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. The commandment we have from him is this: those who love God must love their brothers and sisters also. Maybe that's the reason that Jesus finished that passage that we shared on Sunday from the Sermon on the Mount by saying, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. God's perfect love embraces everyone. And if you're striving to love as God loves, or if you're striving to express your love to God, strive for perfection and being able to allow your love to embrace and to include everyone. Well, thanks for sharing this time with me. I hope to see you again on Sunday morning as we continue our Converted series by asking if we've changed the ways in which we view people. And I hope to see you again next week here for the Wednesday Word.